Las Vegas, November 2017, and Zoe and I were running the rock and roll 10k down the strip. On my wrist, bought from the running convention the day before, is a brand new Garmin Fenix 5. My first ever Garmin. And then nearly 10 years later, at the end of 2025, I'm sat in this office on a Sunday night listing my Fenix 8 on eBay, £600, mint condition with the original box. Between those two moments, 6 watches, 2 more trips to Vegas, one short detour to Apple, and a pattern that I genuinely didn't see until Zoe pointed it out in one sentence over dinner one evening. I want to tell you the whole story, what I was actually buying every time that I bought a new watch, what Zoe said, and the principle that came out of all of it, which I think is in fact the most useful thing I can give anyone over 40 who trains to be fit for life. Now stick with me here because that is the bit that matters the most, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, just so we are clear, this is not a Garmin review. The Fenix 8 is genuinely a great piece of fitness tech. If you wear one and you love it, that is ace. Keep wearing it. This isn't any kind of dig at any type of those watches or these watches. This is also not a Garmin versus Apple video. I am not going to compare GPS accuracy, sleep algorithms, or battery life. There are 100 videos doing that already. I think I've probably watched most of them, to be fair. This is a story, a real one, about 10 years of buying the next smartwatch, and then one Sunday night where Zoe said one sentence which really got me thinking, and then I ended up listing the Fenix 8 on eBay. So if you're over 40 and beyond, you enjoy training, being fit and healthy for later in life, and you've ever found yourself a few hours deep into YouTube reviews looking for the next smartwatch, this one's for you. Let me take you back then. November 2017, Las Vegas. Zoe and I were out there for a few days. We've signed up to take part in the rock and roll 10k run. It's the one where they shut down the strip at sunset. You run past the Bellagio fountains, the Wynn, the lot. It's a properly good event. And up to that point, I'd been training with an old G-Shock book. Simple, multiple years deep into being a personal trainer at that point. The notebook, it lived in my gym bag. The date of training, what I lifted, how it felt. It was honest, unsexy, and also genuinely some of the best training data I've ever had. But for this race, I wanted GPS, I wanted heart rate zones, I wanted to see what was actually happening over that 10k. So the day before the race, we were in the convention center to pick up our race packs, and there was the usual merch stands around, including a Garmin stand. So I got sucked in and I bought a Fenix 5 and I ran that 10k with it. I loved every single minute, and from that day on, that watch was on my wrist every day, every session. Now for the first stretch of using it, the watch was in service of the training. The training was the thing, the watch supported it. And I think that's worth saying out loud because that bit actually changes later on in this story. And I didn't notice it changing until much, much later. Now, fast forward to early 2019, the Apple Watch Series 4 is on the scene. A bigger screen than we've seen before, heart rate monitoring properly integrated, and I'm curious because I'm an Apple guy across the board. iPhone, MacBook, Mac Mini, AirPods, the lot. So the idea of bringing the watch into that ecosystem, it actually made sense. I bought the Series 4, I used it for about 6 months. And then honestly, I went back to the Fenix 5. Genuinely, the Series 4 wasn't ready yet, at least not for the kind of training and life I was doing. The battery couldn't handle it, the GPS lock was slower, the native fitness data, it just wasn't deep enough. So I sold the Series 4, I dug the Fenix 5 out of the drawer again, strapped it back on the wrist, and that was it. Now I want to flag this because it matters. Apple legit had a chance, and I gave it a chance, but Apple, it wasn't there yet. Garmin was the right tool at the time for fully in on that. So if you're watching this and thinking, oh, he's just an Apple fanboy who never really committed to Garmin, I want to be clear. I committed, I moved away, I came back. That's how good the Fenix 5 was. And that's what makes the rest of this story not a love-in for Apple, but a much more interesting question about what was actually happening to me as a user. So fast forward again to 2022, the Fenix 7X solar launches, bigger screen, solar charging, battery for weeks, more data fields, all that good shiny stuff. So I bought one. Honestly though, I didn't need it. The Fenix 5 was working perfectly. Bought it because I wanted to see what was new. And that's the whole reason. Something new and shiny had been released, marketed as being the greatest thing to have. So those first 2 weeks with that 7X Solar, I barely trained. I trained, but the proportion of time I spent learning the watch, configuring data screens, watching YouTube tutorials on how other people had set theirs up, it was probably equal to the amount of time that I was spending in the gym. And in the moment, that didn't feel like a problem. It felt like I was investing, I was optimizing. Now November 2023, we're back in Vegas, Zoe and I, work trip combined with a few days off, and I'm in the Apple store. A very familiar feeling, and I'm looking at the Apple Watch Ultra 2. But here's the thing, Apple's caught up by now. Different watch entirely from that Series 4, proper battery, proper GPS, built for actual indoor and outdoor use, for training and the weekend warrior type of stuff. So I bought the Ultra 2, used it for a full year, loved it. I still had the Garmin itch, and that 7X was still in the drawer. Looking back now though, that should have been the warning sign. 2 flagship watches, I can't make up my mind. That's not a gear problem, that's a me problem. I just didn't see it yet, and that might be a you problem as well. Then September 2024, Fenix 8 launches. I sold the 7X Solar, which was still working perfectly, and I bought the Fenix 8. Back in to Garmin full time. And this time the Ultra 2, that went in the drawer. The Fenix 8 has, and I'm not exaggerating here, around 40 different sport profiles. There's hundreds of configurable data fields, body battery, training readiness, HRV status, race predictors, daily suggested workouts, pulse ox, sleep scores, recovery times. If you're training for an Ironman or an Ultra and you've got the time and headspace, it is a powerful system, genuinely. But here's the thing, 47, I run a personal training and nutrition coaching business, both online and here in the gym. I've now also set up a social media management company alongside this. I've got clients, programs, content, a life that I want to enjoy with Zoe, both here at home and traveling as often as we possibly can. And what happened gradually, quietly, is that the watch stopped being in service of the training. The training, that started being in service of the watch. It had completely flipped. The watch keeping the score instead of the training keeping the score. And that's the bit that I want to come back to in a bit, because that's what this whole story is actually about. Let me give you a specific moment. I remember this well. It was a Tuesday morning, and I want to tell you exactly what happened, because it's the moment that everything actually tipped, or was the beginning of everything tipping. I'm in the gym, coffee finished, watch is on the wrist. I've got a heavy weight training session planned. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, but I was still looking at the watch and checking readiness scores. Body batteries at 52. Training readiness is moderate. HRV slightly below baseline. And now I've got a decision. Push as planned, pull back, drop the working weight, cut the volume. I know what the watch is suggesting, but I also feel fine. I've slept fine, and I ate fine the day before. So I switched the watch into the strength training profile, checked the data screens. I haven't updated one since the last firmware update. And now I'm in the menu system updating a screen, which means I'm now reading about what each field shows, or which means I'm now wondering whether to add a tempo tracking field. So I'm in the gym, I'm moving things around on the watch, and at this point, minutes have passed before I've done a single rep. Multiple minutes of managing the watch before actually getting on with the training. Now, the feeling of this wasn't annoyance exactly, it was quieter than that. The feeling of having watched yourself do something slightly absurd in slow motion and not stopping yourself. I still trained, the session was fine, then I got on with the rest of the day. But those minutes, they bothered me. They were still there at the back, nagging away. Now, before I tell you what Zoe said, because that's probably what you're all waiting to hear, I want to flag something. What comes next is the part that genuinely changed how I think about training at our age, not just with the gear we use, but with the training itself. So if you've been with me this far, stick around. The principle that came out of all of this is the most useful thing I can give you. And my completely free fitness blueprint is at the end of this as well. But the principle that matters more. Picture this. It's a Sunday night. It's about 6 weeks or so after that Tuesday morning. Zoe and I, we're sat at the dinner table and we're talking about nothing in particular. And she said, completely casually, no big speech, "Tim, you used to just train hard. Now you spend ages on your phone and pressing buttons on your watch before you train. What's changed?" That was it. One sentence. I sat with that for a while, 20 minutes or so, just thinking it through, because she was right. And in the moment she said it, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I went upstairs, I got the Fenix 8 in the packaging out of the drawer, cleaned the watch, took the photographs, wrote the listing, £600, mint condition, posted it. That was it, done. And the next morning, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 comes back out of the drawer where it had been sitting since the Fenix 8 launched a year before, and I started training with it again. A few weeks later, the Ultra 3 launches. I upgraded, and that's where I've settled. Last September, Apple Watch Ultra 3, native apps only, no third-party fitness apps, no subscriptions, no faff. That's where I'm at now, and legit have not looked back. I want to tell you what I expected when I switched, and then what actually happened, because they were different. I expected to miss the data, genuinely. 10 years deep with the Garmin at that point, 3 Fenixes with one short detour to an Apple Series 4 that wasn't ready. I thought within a fortnight I'd be back on eBay buying another one. I'd be mid-session, missing the training load reading, and it would drive me mad. What actually happened was I felt lighter. Not metaphorically, actually lighter. Apple Watch on. Press start, train hard, press stop, that was it, done. No pre-session readiness check-ins, no body battery cross-reference, no menu diving, no deciding anything before training. I just trained. And since changing all of this around, my training has actually got better. Not because Apple is better than Garmin in pure data terms, let me be clear, it isn't, but because the barrier between me and the session was lower. Less between me and starting, less friction. In the first 4 weeks, I've maybe missed one session, take deliberate rest days. I've trained more consistently than I had in the previous. Sessions were better. I was sleeping better because I wasn't checking sleep scores in the morning and feeling guilty about logging a 76 instead of an 84. The watch had been a low grade weight on my training, and I hadn't seen it because the weight was made of information, which feels useful, which feels productive, which feels like the opposite of a problem. But that's the bit I want anyone our age to hear. Information you don't act on, or that you act on incorrectly because you don't trust your own read, that information, that costs you. One other thing that happened in those first few weeks, I've got a client, Mike, mid-40s, trains with me once a week. He also follows my 3 times a week dumbbell plan outside of those one-to-one sessions. He runs a business, 2 children, busy life, but he fits exercise into it, not the other way around. He's a solid dude. He came in for a session a few weeks after I'd sold the Fenix 8, and he said to me, "Tim, my watch has told me not to train hard today. What should I do?" So I asked him, "Well, how do you feel?" And he paused, honestly paused, like the question hadn't occurred to him. And he said, "Actually, I feel fine. I'm a bit tight in the shoulders, but I feel good." So we trained. Hard session. He smashed it. On the way out, he stopped at the door and he said, "I almost didn't come in today because of that score. I almost cancelled the session because of what my watch was telling me." That stuck with me because Mike is sharp. He knows his body. He's not someone who needs a watch to tell him whether he's tired. But the score had got under that. The score had become the authority. And that's the dependency I want to talk about, because it's not just gadgets, it's a pattern. The more we outsource the decision, should I train today? How hard? For how long? The less confident we get making it ourselves. Instinct fades, and our instinct, built on years of training and our specific body, is genuinely valuable data, probably more valuable than a body battery reading on a Tuesday morning. No app knows you better than you, and that's worth saying out loud, especially at our age, when your read on your own body is actually getting more accurate, not less, because you've had more time learning and training with it. And that's the bit I think we've forgotten. Age gives you signal, not just noise. So my honest verdict, what is this actually about? It's not Garmin. You could replace Garmin in this whole story with any tool, a nutrition app, a sleep tracker, a new program, any of it. The pattern is We search for the tool that will remove the uncertainty. The watch that tells us whether to train today. The app that confirms we're doing it correctly. The program that decides for us, so we don't have to carry the uncertainty ourselves. Training at our age, I think, is uncertain because recovery is less predictable. Energy varies more. You've got more going on, there's less margin. The uncertainty is real and it's uncomfortable, but the tool doesn't remove that. It just gives you something to look at while you sit with it. The data surfaces information, the decision is still always yours. The more you outsource that decision, the less you're going to trust your own read. Like Mike, almost not coming in for that session. Like me, 10 to 15 minutes before a single rep on a Tuesday morning. The dependency grows quietly, and quietly your own instinct gets quieter. So what does this look like in practice? Well, I think 3 things. 1, use what you have. Whatever is on your wrist right now is enough. The kit isn't the constraint. It hasn't been for a long time. Number 2, reduce the decisions before a training session, not the data during one. Know what you're training before you walk in. Have a default. Lay your kit out. Every decision you remove is energy you keep for the work itself. Number 3, trust the read you've earned. You've been in this body longer than any watch, especially our age. And that read is actually sharper than you give it credit for. If anyone's ever told you the watch keeps the score, it doesn't. You do. The watch is just along for the ride. One last thing before I let you go. I sometimes think about that 10K in Las Vegas, wrist with a brand new Fenix on it, running up the strip at sunset. Genuinely one of the best races that Zoe and I have ever done. Wicked fun event. And here's the bit that gets me. I didn't need any of the watches that came after that. Fenix 5 was enough. It was always enough. Everything I've spent my money on after that, the 7X Solar, the Ultra 2, the Fenix 8, and now my Ultra 3, was in fact me hunting for something the kit was never going to give me. And it took 10 years or so, and 1 sentence from a very clever person called Zoe, for me to see it. So if you take one thing from all of this, it's that the answer is not on a website, it's not in a launch event, or in someone's review here on YouTube. It's in you. It always has been. Now look, if you'd like a proper framework for training at our age, you're over 40, 50, you're on the way up, not the mindset, the actual programming, what to do in each session, how to structure the week, how to manage recovery when life doesn't cooperate. I've put together a free fitness blueprint, 17 years of working with real people, real lives, real constraints, and still achieving real results, all distilled into something practical and short. The link is in the description. There's no hype, there's no faff, there's no hard sell. It's just what actually works for the body and lifestyle that we have right now. Let me know in the comments below, where are you at with this? Whether you're in the search right now, whether you've made a switch recently, or whether something here has landed differently than you expected. I'm genuinely interested to know your thoughts. Now, YouTube is extremely clever and it knows that you will like this video next. So watch this video next. And as ever, thank you very much for watching. Stay active. I'll see you in the next one.